What's new in Update 174? Payday VR has fully released. After being a public beta for so long, it's finally officially available to play for both HTC Vive and Oculus Touch users right now. To unlock the ability to play, you'll need to go to the Steam store and activate the free virtual reality DLC. Make sure it's installed on your DLC list. You might want to restart Steam once or twice to make sure it's working and launch the game. Payday will ask you if you want to launch the game normally or in virtual reality mode. This prompt can be disabled by simply uninstalling the DLC. I'll remind you that Payday VR is not a separate client anymore. It's simply a different way of playing the main game. It's like plugging in an Xbox controller. You'll still have access to your main game save file in VR, unlike the beta. However, if you are a higher level in the VR beta than in the main game, you'll have the option to transfer over your save file from the beta to the full client. Overall, the beta is no more, and Payday 2 is now one unified cross-play game for PC and VR users alike. The bulk of gameplay remains largely unchanged. You can watch my playlist of Payday VR videos to have an understanding of gameplay mechanics, how firing weapons works, the menu system, so on and so forth. So I'll only touch on what has changed completely. First of all, sniper rifles are now available to use. The magnification of the scopes is surprisingly intense and varies from scope to scope. It's a bit glitchy, as most things in Payday are, but so long as you aren't trying to use any weird, crazy angles to snipe from, it should do its job. Driving is now available as well, and it's, oh boy, it takes some getting used to. You grip the steering wheel with one hand to turn, and the gear with the other to accelerate or reverse. I mean, it works just fine, but you aren't gonna be very precise while doing this. Not to mention, you sit so low in the vehicle that I was actually getting nauseous from it. Regardless, it functions and can be pretty fun in low-pressure situations. When you're being fired at, though, it's really nerve-wracking. The inventory belt can now be very heavily customized, from height to distance from your body to the size, shape, and location of each individual element, and reminds me of the fantastic all-in-one customization of my new sponsor, Squarespace. I'm fucking with you. Nobody would want to sponsor me. Many small buffs and skill changes are in effect when the player is using VR. The most notable of these are enemies 20 meters or more away are more likely to target you, but deal 10% less damage, and the damage decrease scales higher the further away the enemies are, up to a 75% reduction from enemies 60 meters away or more. VR players can sprint faster and for longer, and when using teleport movement, skills that would otherwise only function while moving for desktop players will be active for several seconds after teleporting, such as Artful Dodger's increased dodge chance. Perk decks will now have various bonus effects that restore armor, health, or dodge depending on the perk when the player dashes, among other things. And many skills have received small bonuses, buffs, or changes to give VR players an edge, considering the handicap created by the complex control scheme, lack of text chat, and general lack of awareness in terms of objectives. I'll link to the full patch notes in the description, as I'm not gonna bother reading every single one. Many of these changes are tiny, seemingly arbitrary buffs. I'm not saying that they won't help VR players out at all, but it's more like several small passive bonuses as opposed to any massive game-breaking changes. All of these additions are great for VR, but let's discuss what isn't in Payday VR. Bows. All bows, crossbows, and weapons of the sort are not available to use yet, in addition to the little friend rifle and the chain whip for some reason. These will be added down the line when they figure out how to best implement them, and the main menu is still clunky. Trying to use small UI elements with a shaky pointer isn't the smoothest experience, so fingers crossed this is improved at some point. Apart from that, many VR crashes were fixed and bugs squashed. Overall, considering the amount of content in Payday 2 and that buying the base game will also get you the VR version unlike some other titles, Payday VR is an excellent addition. If you don't have a VR headset, you shouldn't notice much different. I didn't notice any of the glitchiness or crashes when playing with a keyboard and mouse like I had in the beta. The worst you might get is having to disable your mods for a while until patches are released to make them compatible. If you do notice anything game-breaking, Overkill asked you report bugs in the normal bug report forum on Steam, albeit with a VR tag in the title if you were using VR at the time. I've linked that in the description as well. I'll admit, I'm sure players who don't have VR are feeling a bit left out at the moment. Remember those teaser achievements we had for the past week? Turns out they were just a new difficulty achievements for Safe House Nightmare. Yeah, so sorry to those of you who can't join in on the fun. Hopefully there'll be some more content for you guys coming soon. That said, Payday VR is free to anyone who already owns or purchases Payday 2, is available for the HTC Vive and Oculus Touch, includes all heists and nearly all of the weapons from the normal game, has both teleport and smooth locomotion, cross-platform compatibility with desktop users, and is just a damn fine VR title. I mean, most VR games are a bit glitchy and awkward to play, and Payday already was, so I guess VR isn't really much different. Either way, if you liked the video, I'd appreciate it if you thought about subscribing. Thanks for watching, and take it easy.